Here we are, the Shelter FootyCast live from BackChat Studios, back in the Shelter set. Good to be here. Yes, Skeet, I'm wearing a Melbourne Demons. Well, it's not Melbourne Demons, it's a D's t-shirt. Calm the D's. D's playing tonight, of course, against Richmond. Don't look at me like that, Skeeter. Shelter FootyCast on socials. You can send us an email, footycast@backchatstudios.com.au. And that was the Southern River Band killing things. How are you, Skate?
Oh, good. I'm just trying to work out which club you actually support, because that now takes a six that you embrace and support. And
what if I just love footy?
Yeah, that's possibly the case, but there's always an ulterior motive behind your activity, whether it's merchandise sales or something.
Just jump on to backchatstudios.com.au. If you're a Melbourne fan, you can pick one of these up. Yeah, you can, mate.
What was it? Not from this year, obviously.
The boys over at the debrief just doing good things over there. So if you want to pick one of those up, you might want to scoot over there, Skeet.
Yeah, well, there's 24,000 at the G last Saturday, so I'm sure there's, again, it'll just be walking off the shelves. Melbourne supporters are very loyal to their cause.
Skeeter. Who do you go for? I mean, you always come at me.
No, I've been accused on radio of being an Eagles supporter.
So who do you go for?
Perth. You don't get it.
You are, mate.
No, but you don't get it. You don't get it. And
I get it.
No, you don't.
You come at me on a daily, like we do about 5 shows a week, and every time, who do you go for? You're 16. Who's your team?
I've told you that. I grew up barracking for Perth. And, you ask Adam Papalia, do you trust Adam?
Yeah, I trust Adam.
With what he says. He's in the same boat as me. I mean, I hope the WA teams do. I hope the WA teams do well. Look, when I finished year 12, I know you'll start going into the archives here, but year 12 I finished, the Eagles came into being in 87, okay? And so I was Ross Glendenning.
So you're an Eagles fan?
So can you let me finish? And then I started working in the media, and Mick Malthouse was coach in 1990, and it dulled my sense of enjoyment of footy, because it became us against them, and I've got no issues with Mick at all. But when you're doing it day in, day out, you don't have the same. I'm surprised you being a former Eagle. If someone said, your number one team is the Eagles, if that was the case, I think that's justified. For me, it's more in the work cycle. I don't have a team. Perth's a team I would rather see Perth win a flag, which won't happen in my lifetime, than either the Eagles or the Dockers.
Who are you going to go with good players this year? Charlie Constable. Yeah, Brandon Parfitt. You could lose him halfway through the year.
Yeah, we got Simpson, Parfitt, Constable,
Stoney coaching.
So
you've written them off.
We could finish sixth. We could really have a good year and finish sixth. No, Stoney's doing a great job, but no, I'm very, very pessimistic about Perth, because we've just we haven't won a flag since '77. But no,
so if you had a gun to your head, who do you go for?
What, in the AFL?
Yep.
I don't have a team, mate. I actually don't. I've got mates at both clubs, the Eagles and Dockers. I don't really. Is that fair to say? Do you think I'm being soft?
What do you think? What do you think I think?
Well, I just don't have. I don't have a passion for a team anymore.
I'll tell you who you go for. Whoever's trying to get you over the line.
If I've got a margin involved, then it certainly becomes a lot more invested in more ways than one.
I've never seen a more parochial fan than Skeeter. Down the buzzer.
That's fair shout.
Very good. Welcome to the Shelter FootyCast, where WA's best footy show and WA's best beer combined to bring you all the best footy news. A preview for round 7 coming up. Skate, exciting news today. Of course, our numbers brought to you by Aspect Accountants. If you do want to get in touch with them, you're a small business owner or even looking at taking a side hustle to the next level this end of financial year, get in contact with Aspect Accountants right now, info@aspect.accountants.com.au. They look after all of our stuff. We've got about 5 businesses in here, and they sort us out absolutely, because I don't know what I'm doing. They will get you sorted in there. So get in contact with Ben and the team. They're bringing us our numbers. Skeet, 3 tickets to Friday night, Freo v Adelaide. We're giving away on the show today. You got to stay in touch with us on socials, so make sure you're keeping an eye out across Shelter FootyCast on Instagram. There'll be a post that goes up. We're giving 3 tickets away. I'm wondering if they have to have the code word or not. I haven't thought about it. So
I tell you what, it's one of the good, great days on the WA football calendar. I say that with all due respect to you got the derbies, and you're going to have Fremantle playing Collingwood on a Thursday night, but the Len Hall tribute game, and of course the Arthur Leggett medal, which has been implemented for matches moving forward. Dockers do it really well. In fact, they do it exceptionally well, and yeah, it's a really good night in honouring the servicemen and women, but also playing a game of footy where 2 pretty handy sides, I would have thought.
Friday night footy doesn't come to Perth often. It'll be sold out, I would say. Adelaide, a very good side. Somehow are underdogs. I don't know if you've seen that sort of thing. Well, I think that market's incorrect.
Might be, but yeah, there might be a couple of players in doubt.
All right, well, they'll be coming across the desk shortly. 360 Occupational Health is giving us those tickets.
Well, geez, I've never heard of
I think you might have. If you pull some dots together, you might actually figure out who's made those available to us. But a very big thank you to 360 Occupational Health helping us out here on the Shelter FootyCast. All right, Skeet, 3 tickets will be up for grabs. I'll come up with something as we go.
You sounded more urgent than normal. You sound like you're on the go. You need to get this punched out and just feeling like you want to keep moving.
Do you want me to tell you what? I'm excited. I was in my full Aquinas kit. I'm coaching a side this year.
Yeah,
I'm actually really excited about it. Head coach at Aquinas.
You wouldn't want to be late for your first practice match.
Yeah, so instead of preparing for my practice match for my boys that I love and care for, I'm sitting next to you who can't even give us a team that you go for. I'm going to get a team out of you this year. I think you're full of it for what it's worth. I called Skeeter an imbecile on radio last night. And the text line was flooded. What was going on there? My mum was coming for me. She said, darling, you're not on a podcast anymore. People are going to be offended.
And you know what?
You were highly offended.
I can't even remember you saying it. And,
it's imbecile's not that bad.
I get called a lot worse at home, as I said, from my wife and daughters.
And you are an imbecile. People asking me to apologise publicly on air. Felt like I had stuff off. I'll tell you what. All right, Skate. Bit going on. A tiny review of the Cats' win against Hawthorn because, of course, we recorded before that happened. Big win, like I thought. They held off. I thought Hawthorn, when you see those games and, you should have won, that doesn't exist, that phrase in my mind, because you either win or you lose. But Hawthorn probably had the momentum there, and Geelong really did well to keep them at bay.
Yeah, they held them, didn't they? And Geelong looked as if they were going to be outworked and overrun in the last half. And again, just watching even the last quarter, the opportunities that they had, Sicily from long range, they made mistakes. They weren't at their best, but Geelong, they just find a way, don't they? And that was another example of, again, it sounds weird. They were terrific. I don't think they can win the flag, but you just know they're going to be somewhere around September, and if they can keep their list healthy and manage their older players, they're a very good side.
Yep, it was a great win at the MCG. They'll try to back it up this week. Probably the biggest issue out of it was Connor Nash, the suspension, 4 weeks. He's been given at the AFL tribunal. To be honest, there hasn't been a lot of kickback on it, like we have seen in other, Jackson Archer. There was a lot of criticism around that. Clearly, he's swung an arm, hit someone, knocked him out, and the look was bad. So I don't think people are as appalled with this one as they have been with others. Lee Matthews has called for an AFL send-off rule. We spoke about this a little bit last night. How do you feel about a send-off rule in something like this?
I'm not saying it should definitely be put in play, but I do understand in Geelong's case on Monday having one less player for the rest of the game, as opposed to Connor Nash, who can continue to contribute to his side. Now, I know he's penalised now because 4 weeks of on the sidelines, but Geelong on the day, and I think Lee's premise is that the team on the day is disadvantaged. Now, we did have an SMS come through last night. It's not a bad suggestion about, or at least to look at, maybe if that's looked at, if there's not a send-off rule, do they have another penalty? Is it a case of having their rotations cut by a certain percentage? I don't know. I don't think the send-off rule will come in. But, the most obvious ones are like the Barry Hall, Brent Staker one, where that's a clear send-off rule. We don't see a lot of those. In fact, you might see 2 or 3 maybe a year maximum, but I don't think it'll come in the short term. I just think it's too fraught with complexity.
Well, it's a big no for me because just use this exact example. Like, should he have been let's say we had a send-off rule. Should this be sent off? Just because the other player's not playing? Like, is it a blanket rule, like if a player gets knocked out, the other player's off? So I don't think that's where we want to get to.
No, but what the result was that he was concussed and out of the game because of Connor Nash.
We have a substitute in our game. That's what it's there for.
Well,
so you'd have to get rid of that.
When you say, well, it's not there for that. It's not. No, it's not there for blokes getting belted.
What is it there for?
I think it's
injuries.
And holistically, it's for injuries, isn't? Don't you think? Or tactical. It's not there for that type of incident.
But Connor Nash, like his arm goes 10 centimetres lower, and this is the outcome action thing.
Yeah, well, that's bad luck. That's seriously. That's if you're putting yourself in that position, I think you're going to have to wear the consequences of what happens afterwards. Now, if he gets lucky. and he doesn't get concussed, and he probably dodges a bullet big time. But
so if there is a send-off rule, are you happy in a grand final Hawthorn Geelong for Connor Nash to be sent off? I know you're not.
No.
That's what I think it's a hard question to answer, isn't it?
I agree totally. But let me just, in brief, say that we spend 90 seconds, maybe 2.5 minutes at times, on analysing goal reviews. Then if we're going to go that path, then these are incidents that probably you could, given the time it takes for the medical staff to get out there, to do the same, a bit like they do in NRL, a bit like they do in rugby. So don't get me wrong, I'm not saying I think this is the way to go, but it could be done. But I do agree with you on the fact that there are so many, how many layers of send-offs do you have, and where does it start, where does it finish?
The sling tackles that were in vogue last year, right? And imagine a tackle that's a good, strong tackle, and their head glances someone, and then we've got some.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about these.
That's why I think it's a no, because we don't. Mate, no one's king hitting anyone. Like Connor Nash didn't king hit him.
No, there's the Barry Hall type one, but they're once every 10 years.
15 years. So that's why I'm a no for that. Noah Balta has avoided jail time. I spoke about this Monday. I didn't think he was going to get sentenced. I didn't think he was going to get much punishment, which he hasn't, to be honest.
But also, nor do a lot of people who are charged with assault get smashed by the law.
So I spoke about this on Monday. I was king hit when I was playing footy. I was in Geelong. Found out after the fact, someone, it's not allegedly, the guy hit me and was charged. And
this is off the field you're talking about?
This is in Geelong on
out at
Ryrie Street, mate, like in the middle of the street. Someone walked past me in a hoodie. Next minute I was unconscious with 2 broken eye sockets. There was camera footage of it. He'd had a bottle and a half of Jack Daniels at home and decided to come out and punch someone. That's literally what he said in court. Never met him, didn't say a thing to him.
How long did he get in jail?
Yeah, 0, because I didn't get surgery. It would have been grievous bodily harm, except I looked after him by not having to have facial surgery. I mean, what an absolute joke.
That's where we're at.
And so, we look at Noah Balta, and I'm not,
This is not against, not a slight.
It's not. It's against the judicial system. So I'm not surprised that he wasn't really given too much. And the fact that he's going to miss some games, I think is a good thing. You can't king hit people. Like people can die.
Yeah,
that's how serious it is.
It's a pretty average act. And I know he's remorseful. I know he's come out and eventually said something publicly. It wasn't a moment too soon.
Richmond butchered it yesterday at the press conference. Did you see that? It was as if they didn't think there was going to questions. And then that's the head in the sand mentality. They should have had the CEO.
They should have had They should have had president, CEO, whoever it is.
Someone
well-versed in able to give the answers and then say, okay, from a footy side of it, a couple of questions for Adam on this. And look, I understand if you're in the media liaison person, you're trying to, after 6 minutes, you're going, okay, what stage do you stop it?
But putting Adam Uze there to be the spokesperson.
The lamb to the slaughter, yeah.
Like, he's the football coach. And this is what I was talking about last week with the decision whether to play Noah Balta or not. He's trying to win games of footy. And I know I've just spoken about how serious that is as an action from Noah Balta off the field. But Adam Uze is trying to win a game of football. But
there's people at his footy club that should have intervened and done it. And you're saying the AFL, and you're probably right on that front as well.
Correct. Thanks for saying I'm right.
Very rare. Well, you know what? Sometimes you get lucky.
Skeeter. By the way, Geelong had a laid out in that game. That's 5 consecutive weeks in a row. Do you reckon Chris Scott's just going every week?
Yeah, just take the mickey.
Yeah, he's just going to do whatever he likes. Razor Ray spoke about this during the week, about the standard of umpiring. I think it's been poor this year, Skate. I know you'll defend him.
No, hang on. What did Razor Ray say about the umpiring?
Razor Ray said that the criticism of the umpiring is not there, and then the understanding of the laws of the game has been poor.
And you know what? I remember Dean Margette's working with him, and he made a good point. I think as much as we journalists in the media, and we've got access to the laws of the game, do you reckon we know the laws of the game as well as we should?
Yeah, I do, yep.
You know the laws of the game, okay.
I do, mate. And I'm not trying to be a hero, but I played the game for 15 years. If I didn't know the rules of the game, I get so frustrated.
Mate, don't just say because you're an ex-player that you know the rules. I see players try and take advantage off the mark.
Off marks. They step inside after a free kick on the full, and they're shocked that it's called played on.
Mate, a lot of players don't know the rules.
Mate, I know. Yeah. I'm telling you, I do. The rush behind rule, players don't understand it, fans don't understand it.
And media don't. That's why we at times get it wrong. And I'm saying the umpires generally, despite all the noise, if you go to what the law says, I think you'll find them on the right side of the ledger.
I'm not saying that it's umpires' fault that it's been poor, but it's okay that it hasn't been well adjudicated. And I don't think it has, and I think it has something to do with the 4 umpires, because there's more areas of interpretation from 4 people than there was from 2 and then 3 and now 4. You're just not going to get the level of consistency that I think as a fan or media or player that you want. You want consistency. If a 15-metre kick is not going to be paid, you want that all game. So at least, in the first quarter, all right, they're hot on this. That's consistent. But then the second quarter, they stop paying it. That's poor adjudication. Like that's interpretation and poor umpiring for me. And that has been happening almost every single game. Now, that is not their fault, Skate. I'm not having a go at umpires, but you can still perform poorly.
No, I agree.
Right? And it not be your fault.
No, I agree. And look, there was one standout incident in the Melbourne Fremantle game last week where Matthew Johnson, deep in defence, wins the ball, puts the arm out in a fend-off motion, is tackled, and it's a ball up. Now, for me, that was holding the ball all day, every day. Yet you see that happen later in the game or early in the game, and it's penalised. So that to
it's
me,
interpretation, right?
Yeah, to me that was a poor interpretation. But you're right. So when you've got, it's like anything. If you put 4 of us around at a bar having shelters and give us your views on umpiring, if we were sitting there, we would come up with different calls from time to time, wouldn't we?
Yeah.
That's just the nature of what we see.
If we can criticise teams, coaches, players in the AFL, I'm pretty sure we can criticise the
of course
umpires.
you can. I to be honest, I totally agree with you. I just don't see it as being as bad as what you and others think.
It's because you actually work game day and you have to call play-by-play and you're concentrating, and I'm just sitting there talking shit and I'm actually watching the game. So you and Paps, especially, who I work with a lot, like you both have similar views. You're like, it's just the game. Yeah. It's because you're doing a good job usually, and me, who's just like trying to pick it to pieces. Like, I see it that it has been poor. We don't hear from any umpires. We hear from former ones. We don't hear from the umpiring department. This is another head in the sand thing. If we heard more from them, I reckon you'd have less frustration from fans and people like me. Sam Darcy has avoided knee surgery, Skeet. I don't know any details on that other than there was no ACL, and then what I heard was he was going to get surgery on the fractured knee and different ligaments, but now he's getting no surgery at all.
Yeah, still means I think it's going to be touch and go for him for the finals. It's going to be back into the season, if at all. I think if Bulldogs play finals, he'll probably be back. It does complicate things for them, doesn't it, with Jamari Ugle-Hagen's issue in the background, Darcy, his injury. So, yeah, look, they've done pretty well, I reckon, the Dogs, to get to this point, and Bontempelli playing for the first time at the weekend, you saw just how important he is, is that they've done pretty well to this point, but that's it's not quite great for the games. I reckon he's just a talent to watch. Love it.
And the last one for me is the reporting and injury reporting at the moment. Managed, injured, curfew,
personal reasons.
Personal, mental. We've got injuries and we've got vagaries. So I looked at Geelong's injury list, by the way. It's got all of those. It's got like managed, personal, indefinite, undecided, season ending, and then they've got ranges like 1 to 5 and 1 to 3. If people just say what it is, no one talks about it. Elliot Yeo. Now, I don't know if he's had setbacks. I don't know what's going on, but I'd love to pull the tape of me saying when I saw what injury he had, we'll see him after the bye. West Coast are rolling out 4 weeks when he did it. 4 weeks. Mate, I have no idea what's going on in a medical. Mate, did his syndesmosis and his bloody, like, it's just like mind boggled. Elliot Yeo now out for 5 to 7 weeks. Unsurprised. And I wouldn't be surprised if you just said it in the first place.
No, I don't disagree. This is one of the things you bang on about. And I know Chris Scott's talking about the betting side of it and maybe fantasy footy teams. I think it's more than that. I think people want to know, and, the media getting it wrong so regularly, as according to clubs. But I tell you what, clubs do tell more porky pies than they don't when it comes to injuries, don't they?
Like, if Chris Scott's having to go at fantasy, I'll take fantasy on board. Like, betting can get stuffed, like, who cares? I agree with that. But this isn't about betting. You're exactly right. I personally don't think it's about betting. I think it's about optics of the game and having some clarity about what your team's doing.
I don't understand the advantage that they think they're getting out of it.
Zero. Absolutely zero. Okay, Skate. Let's get into the games. I got my boys to bloody coach, Sheldon Brewing Co. The beer that we can't get enough of. Will Schofield, Mark Readings. Fremantle v Adelaide, Optus Stadium, Friday. That is tomorrow night, 6 o'clock, Anzac Day clash. I hope this becomes a regular fixture throughout for Freo. Remember, thanks to 360 Occupational Health, we do have 3 tickets to give away. Stay across our socials, shout out FootyCast on Instagram to follow that. I'd love to see this continue because not enough teams get access to the big games, and this can become a big game. Anzac Day Eve can become a really big game.
You're talking about the Dockers?
Yep.
Yeah, well, forget Anzac Day Eve, Anzac Day. Anzac Day Eve's today, so tomorrow, your suggestion, I agree with it, is to have to play not just the day after us, but they should be
Friday, Anzac Day weekend.
But no, off the so let's narrow it right down. Narrow it right down. So Collingwood Essendon, Anzac Day tomorrow, and whatever day that falls on. After that, as the second game of the Anzac Day, the Dockers v question mark.
Great.
That's what I agree with. Great. I think they've always for a long.
That's what I was trying to say.
For a long time, they've had this fixture in place, but it hasn't always been on Anzac Day. I'm not saying that's the be-all and end-all, but I agree. Why not just lock and load them as the night game after the G between Collingwood, and you can rotate the opposition absolutely. So I agree, and I think this is about the 28th version of the Len Hall game.
Do you
what?
Do you know how poor my knowledge of
life?
Date and day and time is? It is just god awful.
This might surprise you, but when I was sitting there yesterday about to do Wild Water Sports on 6PR at 5:08 and you're not there, and I've got I can sort of read how things are tracking during the day that, I've got a reasonable time that you're not, that time-wise and getting things right, getting to places when you should do.
Very rarely late. Very rarely.
Well, you're very rarely early.
Yeah. But what does that make me? Thank you very much, Skeeter. In fairness, I walked in as you spat your last word of
I was filling.
delay.
I was filling, don't worry.
And I walked in and it was like I was always there. Right.
Anzac Day, yes. Dockers, we agree.
Okay, good. Josh Rachele and James Peatling will return. A couple of decent ins for them. Darcy Fogarty's a test with that shoulder.
Yeah, no, he was he actually had a free kick or took a mark and then kicked the ball and then went off the ground and had his shoulder looked at. I think they'd like to be resting Tex in this game, but one, he's in very good form, and what he did on the weekend, albeit low scoring affair, was significant. And if Fogarty is out, Tex might have to play. But that is the concern for the Dockers in their 3-pronged attack with tools. I don't think Fogarty will play, but if he does, him, Thilthorpe, and Tex, it's not insignificant, and they are playing. I think they're playing at a better level than Fremantle at the moment.
Of course they are. They beat GWS last week, and Freo couldn't kick a score against Melbourne with no backline, and they let 110 points through.
Yeah.
Who do you think's got a better attack, Adelaide or Melbourne?
Well, Adelaide clearly, but
they can't. I'm absolutely baffled that Freo go into this favourites.
Well, it's based on one fact alone.
Who, Fogarty not playing?
No. Optus Stadium. It's been played in Perth. This is in Adelaide. That market would be shifted significantly.
Well, Fremantle are completely on the nose for me, and you watch them, they'll come out and win, no doubt. But they're going to prove themselves, mate. They've just been nowhere all year.
They're just going. Caleb Sarong.
No, you've said that a couple of times.
No, that was me.
Going, mate.
No, that was Caleb Sarong saying. He's their midfielder maestro. So he's vice captain. So when he's saying they're just going, I don't say that just flippantly. He said that themselves. I think he's probably right. They've beaten 3 teams, one of whom is I think of good quality. That's the Bulldogs. Outside of that, Richmond.
Did they lose to Sydney at Optus?
They did by less than a kick. But Sydney, they
just got spanked at the SCG by Port Adelaide.
Yeah, I don't just compare weeks change. I mean, I thought their performance against Sydney was pretty good. They've had a couple of terrible performances, Geelong and against Melbourne. Even though Melbourne was a 10-point loss, they've been woeful in my opinion on both those occasions. That being said, they've got a tough month, and whatever we say now, in the next month, you can't just keep trotting out, we weren't tough enough this week, we weren't every second week. They have to find a way to be consistent longer, and not in matches, but also during the season, because that's an issue.
Yeah, because it's season after season now. It's not the first 6 rounds.
Yeah.
It's last year, it's the year before. It's this group is yet to prove they can do anything, really.
You know what? Someone texted in. His name was Sebastian. He texted in on during the footy on the weekend, might have been Monday night, and said Fremantle has never overcome a 3/4 time deficit of 18 points or more and won a game in their history.
What?
That seems bizarre, but he doubled down. So if anyone does their stats out there and can get back to us, Fremantle, have they ever been more than 3 goals, 18 points down at 3/4 time and got up and won? Sebastian, who was our correspondent on the night on radio, said that has never happened, which is extraordinary.
Tell you what, aspect accounts would be happy with those numbers. Well done, Skeeter. I like it a lot. Okay. Excuse me. Hayden Young's comments that they want to be a 60 to 70 team are outrageous. I'm sorry, Hayden. I love you as a footy player, but if you've just played a game that you've lost to Melbourne 110 to 100 and you want to be a side that wins games of footy 70 to 60 in an AFL competition this year in which scoring and fast ball movement is the key, it couldn't be reading the room less. Like it is. That baffled me.
Well, I guess
because it's so far from that.
The premiership favourites, Collingwood now, or if they're not favourites, they're close to it. They are probably doing that defensively, keeping teams to around that. They've been outstanding, but they've got an offensive side to their game, which we saw against Brisbane as well. I think. Did he mean it in that context?
Well, I don't know because I don't know what context he meant it, but that's the words out of his mouth, mate. If you want to be that side, I can tell you right now, they're a long way from that. They're nowhere near that.
Yeah, teams that are going to be contending, and if you put Brisbane into that category as well, if you think that type of score is going to win you matches consistently, I think that's, you're asking a fair bit of your defence, aren't you?
I pick Fremantle.
I'll pick the Dockers as well. But you just potted them.
I know, that's why I'm laughing. I think they'll win after all that. And they might win 70 to 60. West Coast v Hawthorn, Marvel Stadium, Sunday. Geez, prime time.
Off Broadway.
Prime time, under the lid. Oscar Allen should be in. You'd think so. They're saying he's going to play. Connor Nash is out of the
Well, he's got to catch up with Sam somewhere, doesn't he?
Will he catch up?
I doubt it.
I'll tell you where the cameras will be. Sam Mitchell's out there.
Yeah. There's that. There's the Tommy Barras narrative.
That's a good point.
There's the issue of the Eagles having a 9-day break, Hawthorn a 6-day break. I spoke to Jake Waterman. I think he's pretty honest. He said, I wish Hawthorn had beaten Geelong on Monday. You know what I'm saying? You just they'll be
fire in the belly.
Yeah, but 6-day break to 9-day break, you've played the game. You can talk about this continuous disadvantages with having a 9-day or 6-day. Is that a factor?
It's irrelevant to Hawthorn. They don't have any travel.
Because of the travel factor.
They drove to the ground, they drove home, slept in their own bed, no travel. So 6-day versus 9-day in Melbourne.
Not much.
Melbourne to Melbourne, nothing. It makes a big difference when you travel because you lose a full day minimum, like a day and a half really in time, in preparation, and then you take the physicality into it. Like it's a big difference travelling off a 6-day versus a 9-day. So that's advantage West Coast there. It won't change for Hawthorn at all though. Thanks to Aspect Accountants, the Hawks have been outscored by a total of 42 points in the first 10 minutes of first quarters this season. So just getting beaten up a little bit in the first 10 minutes. It's the worst differential of any side in the comp. So they have been starting very poorly. I think we've been watching this, and Sam Mitchell has been talking about the stats haven't really been looking amazing for Hawthorn. They've been getting a few wins, but I don't think they're overly happy with their game. Will Day.
The stats keep saying it. Yep. We keep bringing it up. It was 80% when he is playing, 30% when he isn't. That is winning. And those numbers are again, pushing when he's not playing, sneaking up a bit in the last couple of weeks.
This will be decided in the midfield skate, and this is a stat thanks to Aspect Accountants they're not going to like. West Coast is minus 90 in clearance differential over the last 6 weeks. The worst 6-week stretch by any side ever. That's not ideal. I can tell you that right now. Tim Kelly's 150th game. Bo Allen, Luca Grego, Tom Cole had 35 in the waffle on the weekend. I think there could be some changes to this West Coast side. I think they'll continue.
When you say changes, there were
those three there. I think they'll be looking.
So as many as 3 changes. Now, bear in mind, Oscar Allen will come in. So you're saying 4 changes for a team that got beaten by 2 points?
Yeah, by a team that's got the worst 6-week stretch by any team ever.
No, I was saying, so you're still finding, even though there's a really positive performance, you still think there's going to be 4 changes?
Yeah, wow, there could be. I hope there is. I pick Hawthorn.
Yeah, Hawthorn to win that game.
Okay. Melbourne v Richmond, MCG Thursday night. That is tonight. Stephen May, Judd McVee in. I love Judd McVee, good player. Bailey Fritsch is back in the side as well after a stint in the VFL. Jake Melksham, Daniel Turner, Blake Howes out in Richmond. Ryan Mansell and Campbell Gray debuting. Tell us about him, Skeeter.
No, it's his first game. That's all I know.
Noah Balta is out. Is
he part of the NGA or along those lines?
I don't know.
I'm actually doing the game tonight, so I might just cast an eye over what he does provide.
Okay, very good. We're going to whip through these. Melbourne, Richmond. Who wins this? Melbourne, you think?
Well, yeah, but I've loved Richmond. This is a sort of attack that we want to see from, if you're an Eagles person, see that sort of energy from what Richmond have shown. Yeah. They've won a couple of games. That's exactly. I know they've got some high-end draft talent they're using, but yeah, I've liked Richmond. I think Melbourne again tonight. I'm not thinking they're going to kick the 100 points tonight. I think that'd be folly. I think they're still a work in progress, but their midfield's probably too good for Richmond. Petrarca, Oliver, Viney, and of course Maxi and Cozzy, who's been likened his performance against the Dockers to Gary Ablett Jr.
Thanks to Aspect Accountants, Richmond lost the inside 50s by 25 the week before last and 20 last week. Sorry. They lost by 25 against Carlton. They won. And they lost by 20 against last week against Gold Coast, and they won. So just the 5th time a team has won multiple games in a season where they had 20 fewer entries. So some all-time records being broken. That says to me they're winning on spirit. It's not really their game
but
style.
That's good on them.
Yeah, no, I don't think they win against Melbourne, though.
Demons.
Collingwood v Essendon, MCG Friday, Anzac Day Footy Friday, which is brilliant. That'll be an absolute sellout. It could be close to the biggest we've seen. I reckon.
It is. I've tried to get tickets for someone. I think it's harder than grand final week, to be honest with you, in many ways. But it's great. I've been to one Anzac Day, and it's the preamble. It's all the stuff that we know about with the last post, and it's a bit of chilling when you stand there and you've got 90,000 people silent and paying their respects, and it's a great occasion. Love it. Collingwood missing Darcy Moore, of course, with that ear issue.
Nick Dacos, the captain in his place.
Nick Dacos, yeah. I think the youngest captain for Collingwood in, I'm going to throw up about 40 or 50 years.
Thanks to Aspect Accounts.
Yeah, so he's got the gig tomorrow, and it's fascinating to see how Essendon, whether they in fact include Todd Goldstein with Sam Draper and Brian injured.
Well, they have to.
Well,
Peter Wright's not going to ruck for them.
Well, yeah, possibly. I mean, Ben Mackay. I know he's a defender, but his numbers are horrific. He's not playing great footy. Do you think he's all the numbers suggest? I don't know. If Todd Goldstein's your go-to guy, and as good as Todd's been, are there any other options? That's what I'm saying.
But they've had their 1 and 2 guys doing Achilles in an ACL. They haven't gone into the season with Todd Goldstein.
No, I know that.
The ruck coach as their guy. Yeah, but you could do worse. I.e., Ben. You're not going to put Ben Mackay in the ruck.
Well,
you throw on the magnets around. You put your fullback in.
The fullback's not having a great season. I don't think.
Yeah, you're probably right.
But I'm not saying he plays in the ruck. I'm just saying, is Todd your best option? Maybe he's your last option. Yes.
Collingwood has conceded 396 points over its first 6 games.
That's terrific.
It's the best start to a season by a side since 1967.
The defence has been outstanding.
That's crazy.
Which is terrific. I know Darcy's not there tomorrow, but this will be. I don't think this will be a shootout by any means. And I think Essendon will lift. I think they'll find a way to be competitive. I just don't know they've got the quality to beat Collingwood.
Off a trip to Perth, I think Collingwood win. Same.
Yeah, great.
St Kilda, Brisbane, Marvel Stadium, Saturday. Under the lid, Brisbane's going to be an interesting one. Both coming off big losses. Who bounces back is the question. Brisbane losing, of course, last week on Thursday night. Or was it Friday? It was Thursday night to Collingwood. So they've had a decent break with a Saturday game. And St Kilda were pretty poor against the Bulldogs.
I think they kicked the first. Well, they kicked either the first 2 or 3 goals, but they were in front. But they just got mauled by the Bulldogs. They're always competitive, as you say, at Marvel. But if you're going pound for pound, player for player, if Brisbane are switched on, they haven't really been switched on for 4 quarters this year yet, have they?
No.
They should be winning this. But the St Kilda always, even though they got smashed by the Bulldogs, they're always a better side there.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to pick Brisbane, though, in this one, Skate. I can't take St Kilda off the back of that.
No, Brisbane to win. I'm not sure what teams they're trotting out, but they've still got too much quality in that lineup.
Port Adelaide, North Melbourne, Adelaide Oval. North, this is Saturday night, Saturday twilight. North just have to show something. Like,
Well, I've said that.
they have to.
You're getting close to your upset of the weekend. You were 82 points away from getting it right against Carlton.
Yeah. I mean, are you putting yourself out on a limb at all?
I said they should be winning 7 to 8 games this year and be one of the bigger improvers of the competition.
Right.
I've been completely wrong.
Yeah, Alistair Clarkson looks flat. Like, he just looks so out of answers. That's what I took out of his press conference. I don't know if that's how he feels, but
Yeah, they've been, gee whiz, they've coughed up big scores, like 150 points, Carlton.
they've never won at Adelaide Oval, North Melbourne.
I said that to you, and you didn't believe me.
No, I don't believe much because you make them up sometimes.
I don't. I've genuinely look at other people's work and then pinch it and then run with it.
Oh, look, I just, there's just no way North Melbourne win. There's no, you can't pick them. Of course you can't pick them.
And Port Adelaide, I thought they were, what they did after the Hawthorn game, the Sydney game. Again, I think they're going to be touch and go for the 8, but they'll be winning this one.
How's it not like $15 to 101? That's not the odds.
Isn't it?
It's like $1.20 Port Adelaide.
No, it's not.
$5.50 North Melbourne.
Surely not. I better check that just in case.
All right, we both pick Port. GWS, Western Bulldogs, Monaco Oval, Canberra.
Yeah. No, that's...
Oh, that makes sense given it's Anzac weekend, Skeeter. Could be game of the round for mine. Jesse Hogan and Stephen Cornelio both tests. Jesse Hogan, of course, are laid out last week, I think.
Yes.
Sam Darcy, no, not there. Lockie McNeil will not be there. Aaron Norton's 150th game. The Dogs have won 7 of their last 8 matches against GWS by an average winning margin of 24 points, thanks to aspect account.
Yeah, they have. That's a tricky one, isn't it? Tough game. I expect to bounce back from the Giants. Hogan's pretty important to them. They did play in pretty... it was a grind against the Adelaide Crows. Terrible game of footy to watch, to be totally honest with you.
They play well at Canberra, GWS.
Yes, but the record says that the Bulldogs go okay against the Giants. Some teams just match up well, don't they?
Yes.
The Bont back, but they lose Sam Darcy. 150 for Aaron Norton. He actually looked a better player. Or took more responsibility when Sam Darcy went off.
I bet you someone would have eyeballed him. Matt Spanger's the forward coach there, and we know that Bevo's probably got a little bit of a, not cook, but like if you're a player and Adam Norton, we called him a couple of weeks ago.
And even against the Dockers, he's been out of sorts.
He's been out of sorts, mate. He hasn't had a good year. Someone would have put it on him, and sometimes that's what you need as a player.
And even if they didn't put it on, he would have known the big guy's gone off. I have to find something. So I'm tipping the Giants here. But you're right, their record against the Bulldogs leaves me with and obviously I'd like to see the teams come out before I get too bubbly about it. But yeah, I'll go with Adam Kingsley's Bob.
Yeah, I'm going to pick GWS, but I've just realised I haven't picked my upset. So.
No, that's a shame, isn't it? $1.11, by the way, Port Adelaide against the Kangaroos.
For what it's worth, I'm in the 200s now. So in terms of people,
that's some things brighten up your day, and that's just given me just a little pep in my step. By the way, can I give you some helpful advice? You were very bullish on the Adelaide Crows as outsiders.
This will be good.
And then you've tipped Fremantle. So why don't you just flip on that?
What's the advice?
Well, you said you need to tip it up.
You just made a statement. What's the advice?
Well, you said to me as we jumped into this pod, you said I think that they are way overpriced, Adelaide. So they're my upset. And then you tip Fremantle.
So what's the advice?
We'll go back and tip Adelaide again instead of to Fremantle.
Okay, thank you. Gold Coast v Sydney, People First Stadium. That is a Sunday.
That's out of Carrara, by the way, if you've ever been there.
Is it? Yeah.
Good spot.
Yeah, is it? A couple of beers on the...
it's out a bit, but then I say out a bit. It's not as central as, but it's a good area.
Suns are very good at home, and the Swans desperately need a win, so it could make for a good game. The Swans have won 6 of their last 7 matches against Gold Coast at Carrara, dating back to round 16, 2011, by an average winning margin of 53 points.
Wow, that's
a nice little stat for you. Thanks to Aspect.
That's a real trend, isn't it? Gold Coast, they were terrible, weren't they? to be able. But you mentioned the numbers.
20 inside 50.
20 inside 50 is more, and they still got rolled. I expect a bounce back up there. Put it this way. Unless they're playing at Collingwood or someone who's a team that's flying or Brisbane, I find it hard to tip against them at home.
And they're crap away from home.
Yes.
And I know that we want to say, you make finals and win finals. You need to win some games away.
Yeah.
But if you can win every game at home, you only need 4 or 5 wins away.
Well, they have won in Perth.
Correct.
And they won somewhere else in Melbourne. Did they win?
Yeah, they did.
Melbourne.
Yeah, but they're crap away from home against like half-decent sides. Now, Richmond, are they a half-decent side? I don't really particularly think they are, but they're crap away from home. So at home, I pick the Suns.
Yeah, Suns, absolutely. And Coxie with the Swans, they're just having one of those years where they're thereabouts, but they are struggling to put up against good sides, down to Port Adelaide, beaten by Collingwood. They might just be the next level.
Last game of the weekend, and of course, there's probably my upset coming up, and I just smile because my nephew Riley, who does the run sheets, does a great job, and I'll be saying farewell to Riley soon. He's off to Europe for a bit of a vacation, Riley.
Is he allowed to do that as part of his commitment and contract with you?
Yeah, well, it's a very loose contract. Family works for free usually, Skeeter. He tells me off the top here, when will you learn to stop tipping against the Cats, Schoey? So I will off the top say I'm picking Carlton to win this one in an upset, a boil over at the MCG. Harry Mackay is a test. I don't. The concussion stuff. It's getting close to 2 weeks out of the game mandatory, I reckon. So I don't know if he plays. It was a big knockout for him. Brian Myers, of course, out with concussion. He will miss. So there's a couple of decent names in the way here. Thanks to Aspect. Carlton has lost its last 5 matches at the MCG. The last time Carlton did this was 2019 when they finished 16th. So maybe, just maybe, Carlton are no good. I am expecting a bounce back from Carlton and perhaps a leveller from Geelong, even though they'll probably win.
A bounce back. They just won by 80 points against North. But
you know what? That just didn't even register. And the week before that didn't even register either.
No, well, they played pretty poor opposition. Oh, I agree.
They've won 2 in a row.
It's a slight danger game.
Okay.
Only because I think you're right. The investment mostly that the Cats had against the Hawks, and they beat Adelaide, so they've been up for a couple of weeks. Will they sort of have I reckon they'll taper a bit here. But I'm loath to tip against them, Riley. I'm staying with the Cats.
Well done, Skeeter. Will Schofield, Mark Redding, Shelter Brewing Co. Beer fresh from the Busselton foreshore. A couple of questions and comments before I head off to put on a coaching masterclass that Mick Moldhouse would be proud of. Mr. Biden, please work in the French phrase tete-a-tete, T-E-T-A-T-E-T-E.
Tete-a-tete. I don't know what that means, to be totally honest with you.
Meaning head-to-head.
Is it head-to-head?
Next Shelter episode. And then s'il vous plaît.
Yes, s'il vous plaît, yeah.
What's that?
S'il vous plaît, I think it's please, thank you, one of those ones. Thank you very much. One of those. I didn't say I had any French background, except
You did.
I brought out a couple of French words that you weren't across.
From YouTube, on YouTube, Eagles' next captains, Brady Hoff or Ruben Ginbey. I was questioning whether there was one in the mix. What do you think about that?
Well, those 2 guys have been good, haven't they? Pretty hard when you're not inside the 4 walls. But Brady Hoff, playing-wise, what he's doing on field says that he's got a bit of leadership about him, and Ruben Ginbey likewise. But you've got to know a bit more of their character, to be honest with you. But certainly at face value, those 2 guys in the next 2 or 3 years, potentially.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, Ruben Ginbey's been rolled out as the photos for some of the releases they've been doing, so maybe they're trying to tell us a message.
Well, maybe they also think they're just trying to get... Is he trying to look more and more like Dermot every week? That's the question.
I don't know. He probably doesn't know who Dermot is, to be honest. He's quite young. So this is Danielle on YouTube too to go here. Totally agree about West Coast being more honest and communicating with us more. For a fan base that is so large and supportive, and especially with the sad few years we've been having recently, you'd hope they'd have the spine to be frank with us as to what changes are going on / will be happening in the near future. If it wasn't for the almost win against Essendon and the decision to manage Oscar Allen, I'd be fully off the club. Many have had enough of the prancing around tough decisions for the better of the club. If we aren't getting wins soon, then at least give us honesty as to what's going on. I'm going to leave that as a statement from Danielle on YouTube. You happy with that?
Well, that's her opinion, and look, feedback's what we want, and if that's how she feels. So hopefully someone at the Eagles is listening to that.
Probably not. Barty, YouTube, legitimate question. I doubt anyone from West Coast is tuning into this one, mate. Barty from YouTube, legitimate question. Why is there no media heat on Longmuir when premiership coaches like Goodwin, Clarkson and Beveridge get torched every week? If you are honest about it, you will know Freo won't make finals this season and seemingly under JL. So why drag out the inevitable and shorten the time frame for Chris Scott to get comfy with the idea of moving west? Chris Scott.
I tell you what, Chris Scott, I was thinking about that this morning. He's such a good coach. And he was at Fremantle going back many years ago. Look, I think Justin deserves this year till the very end to find out if they play finals. I think he's got an imprimatur to continue, I would have thought. You might say he has to win a final.
He has to play finals.
That's what I said.
If they don't play finals, and mate, I've worked with JL and I don't like calling people's heads, but he won't survive.
No, I don't disagree. That's what I'm saying. End of the season, if he doesn't get this team into the finals, I think that discussion, and particularly if it happens well before the end of the home and away season that they can't make the finals, those discussions will take place. But I think it's a bit premature to talk about what he can't do. I think there's still scope in this team. Maybe I'm being too optimistic.
Well, we spoke about their next 5. So they've got Adelaide here, which is a really tough game, I think. St Kilda away.
On a Friday night at the Dome, or at Marvels, not easy.
Collingwood here.
Tough.
GWS away.
Very tough.
Port Adelaide here. So
still tough. There's no gimmies, not one gimme.
They need to win to not be under a lot of pressure. I think they need to win 3 of those. So if I had to pick 3 they win, they need to win tomorrow. They have to beat St Kilda under the Dome.
And then one of the next.
And then probably Port Adelaide. And you'd say Collingwood here is difficult and GWS at their home is very hard. So if they can win 3 of the 5, I think they'll probably still just be going. If they win 4 of the 5, then they're probably back in business.
They've turned it, yeah.
If they win any less than 3, if they win 2 or 1 or 0, coming into the bye, there's going to be huge pressure from the Freo fan base, as there should be, and probably the media. I don't know why I don't think I sit in the media, but I probably do, don't I?
You are.
Yep. Okay. Thank you very much. Skeet, that's us. Shelter FootyCast. Make sure you are watching and paying attention to socials. Shelter FootyCast on Instagram. A post will go up. You'll need to tag your 2 mates. They're going to come with you to the footy Friday night. Thanks to 360 Occupational Health. Sorting out all your legal needs in that area, Skate.
And if you need an assistant coach, you got my number.
You're going to coach with me at Aquinas?
I just said, if you need an assistant coach, you got my number.
Go AC, boys.